What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where Monday and Tuesday we talk about different cybersecurity topics. Wednesday is our discussion. Thursday is the Ask a CISP, of which I think Ryan still has 2 in the can. Friday is everything else, movies, books, games, and things that are generally not cybersecurity related. But as you can all see, Ryan is not here with us today. He's taking some vacation, you know what I mean, enjoying himself, hopefully. We'll see next week when he comes and tells us about it. But today, it's me, Shannon Tynes. We got Daniel Acevedo.
How's it going, guys?
What's up? And Chris Abercon.
What's going on, everybody?
All right, everybody. So let's get right to it. All right. So let's talk about this article. This first one we have coming up is from bleepingcomputer.com, right? Written by Bill Toulis. And it's the title of it is Android Malware Necro infects 11 million devices via Google Play, right? So like whenever you have one of these malware things that happens in the Google Play Store, right? Like it's one of those ones that's far reaching, right? Because Android is out there like gangbusters, right? Like, so everybody likes to talk about how, you know, I have an Apple, I have this, and other. Apple is very small in comparison when it comes to the Google Play market, all right? They got so many different OSs they support and people that are out there, right? But like here in America, you know, Apple seems to want to be king, but they ain't got it like that, like everywhere else in the world, right? So what it was this Android Necro malware loader for Android was installed on 11 million devices through Google Play, right? Using SDK supply chain attacks, right? So when this happens, right, this is almost always about people that are doing side loading, right? So this is people that are updating their phones, which is very, very easy to do, and Android makes itself very customizable for people to do these types of things using different means other than the Google Play marketplace. Is that what they call it? Google Play,
Play Store, I think.
Play Store or something. Yeah, something like that, right? Look, I'm so far removed. I'm like 4 years removed from it now because I was an Android guy for years. You know, I decided to try something different. But yeah, 11 million people were affected by this, right? And there was two major Trojans that were at play here that were installing payloads on affected devices, and they were affecting different plugins, right? So you had adware that loads links to invisible web view windows. That was an issue. Modules that download and execute arbitrary JavaScript, right? You see that Java, and like, gosh, here we go. And DEX files, tools that were specifically designed to facilitate subscription fraud, right? So you got your web plugin, Happy SDK, Tap plugin, but yeah, this Trojan being on Google Play, 11 million people affected by this, right? So that's a substantial user base of people. That's a lot of people that are affected. And the two apps that they were talking about on here, the first one's called Wutu Camera by Benku, and it's a photo editing and beautification tool with over 10 million downloads on Google Play, right? So that's a potential for just 10 million by itself, right? And here's the thing. You had to know that one was going to be a big hit, right? Because every time you see somebody on social media, they're always accused of like doing photo editing or something like that, never showing their true selves. And they're making it easier to do nowadays, right? They're coming out with all these apps that you can do it with, right? It's not as easy to spot as it used to be, where like you see pictures and like the walls caving in when somebody's like changing up their body and stuff like that. They're getting a lot better at it, right? So yeah, 10 million downloads for that one app, right? So you better believe people are out there still using it, probably none the wiser, right? On this app that's been affecting them, right? But the second legitimate app is Max Browser by Wah Message Recover Wamer, right? And that one had 1 million downloads on Google Play, right? And it actually got removed. So like the other one, it had different versions to where they were updating it. The first one, the photo editing one, where they updated it and they were like, okay, on this version, it's no longer on there. But this other one, they were like, nah, get it out of there, right? And weirdly enough, right, this was a report by Kaspersky, right? And it's a little bit of foreshadowing for some stuff that's coming up this week and for stuff that's come up before, right? But Kaspersky was actually the one that found this one and was like, hey, this is a problem, you know what I mean? Because this malware here is still evident. It's still out there in the world, you know, doing its harm, you know what I mean, with people being none the wiser, right? As a lot of these different malwares are nowadays, right? Like a lot of them have very, very little indication that they are out there doing what they're doing, and then you don't figure it out until boom, a story comes out and you find out, oh yeah, I'm one of those 10 million, right? Like I had to make sure when I was on my OnlyFans doing my pictures, you know, my photo editing was on point, you know what I mean? So my feet pics got to look how I want them to look, so I can get my subscriptions every month, you know what I'm saying? But Daniel, what's your thoughts on this, man?
A great article on Bleeding Computer by this guy. I really like the way he broke it down. There's a great diagram of how the payloads get attached to the servers and how the traffic moves. So I would really, for our listeners, go and check this article out. Look at that drawing. So you get like a visual image. I'm a very visual person when it comes to these kind of things, to see how the things traverse. I felt a little ignorant in this article though too, because the acronym SDK I kind of knew before. And I had to look it up, and I didn't realize SDK is software development kit. Yeah. So how this actually went about is that these third-party applications and the developers that were developing these use these SDKs to develop the apps, and then that got published on the Google Play Store, and that's how it kind of circumvented and was released into the wild, so to say. To Google Play's tribute, they say that their Google Play protection, I forget what it's called, opens the applications in a sandbox before things actually get executed on the phone, or they do screening of the applications before it's actually downloaded, and it warns users before they actually download it. And whenever I hear things like that, where this was actually released, it just makes me think that people are like downloading third-party applications or downloading applications from different stores than the official Google Play Store. And whenever you do that, you kind of like open yourself up for a world of hurt in that aspect as well. So I guess part of it would be just kind of like the social consciousness, cyber consciousness of like, hey, where are you downloading this stuff from? Is it trustworthy? Do I know if this is legit or not? What am I actually allowing into my machine, and what it's going to be actually doing? But, great article. I mean, it talks about stenography in malicious payload too. So it's using like old technologies that we've seen around for a very, very long time, redistributed, retooled as these guys do in different ways. So, you can't teach a new dog old tricks, but in hacking, it seems like old tricks, new dogs, old tricks. It doesn't matter. They got the whole toolkit in their repertoire, and they just release it out. So a really good article. Go out and read it. But what do you think, Chris?
I think you hit it right in the head there. I think the Google Play Store, while they do have some security measures in place, especially I think that kind of shows you the genius of this particular malware, or really this little process. They went for the source code, right? They infected or provided malicious source code, which is the software development kits for these specific programs, like you were saying. And I think from there, it's a little bit more difficult to at least discover from the Google Play side. But what I did want to point out one thing, just like a quick Google search, what's the difference? I mean, really, Google Play, Apple Store, a lot of anecdotal evidence out there. Like for my example, right? I always felt like the Apple Store, I think things were more expensive, right? In general, in terms of the apps. But also I felt like the Apple Store had less apps overall. So I just did a quick Google search, and it turns out Google Play has almost double the apps available to it than the Apple Store. So just by random chance and probabilities alone, you're going to get more jacked up software on a Google Play just from that standpoint. Additionally, I was looking up why are there more apps on Google Play? It turns out, right, to get published on Google Play, it's just like a one-time fee of like $25 or whatever it might be. But for Apple Store, you got to pay like yearly $100, $120 a year to maintain your app or make sure that your app stays in the Apple Store. So just there alone, it's like, okay, I think if you're some kind of script kiddie, if you're just like getting started on malware or whatever, I think it's easier to get into it on the Google Play ecosystem, right? Versus Apple, which to me, my anecdotal evidence is it's more secure, right? I heard that Apple screens all their apps long before Google implemented their security measures, right? Which rightfully so. I mean, they've done a good job in recent years. But yeah, looking at this diagram, right, they talk about like second stage loaders, event storage, and they have plugins that shell plugins, right, that tie directly into the web servers or the web applications, right? So from there could be a whole host of data that could be exported to whatever threat actor there's out there. But one thing too, Shannon did mention Kaspersky. Kaspersky is obviously Russian based, but like it kind of goes to show you how they're actually the Russian malware, the Russian, cybersecurity, the government funded, they've got some seriously talented people on their side, right?
Yeah.
So do not underestimate Russia and Kaspersky. And it's
Yeah.
funny, the comments on this article were like, oh yeah, the Russians are doing great. I don't see. Thank you, Kaspersky. The U.S. regime should be thanking Kaspersky. I'm like that. I mean, they scream bot comment.
Even as you're saying it, I'm like, regime? Like,
Yeah.
okay, I know what that's coming from.
The guy's like the U.S. regime, and then one comment says, "I've been their user since day one and a supporter. I had the privilege of meeting His Highness Mr. Eugene Kaspersky himself." I'm like, come on, man, you're trying to tell me who are you trying to convince, bro?
Jeez.
Yeah, like who are you trying to convince? But yeah, really those are my thoughts in a nutshell. Going to the source itself, really genius move, really, really intelligent move. So those are my thoughts.
So I didn't know that about the, like, I was sure there was more coming out of the Google Play Store, but I switched over to Apple because I had heard the same thing, right? Like Apple has the walled garden of security is what they used to call it, right? Is the walled garden of security, and I was like, all right, I want to go that route because like when I was on Android, and I had Android for years, right? And I'm not down talking them or anything like that. I enjoyed my experience with them, but I started to see more and more things like this coming out of the Google Play Store where there would be malware injected, and I was like, man, it doesn't seem like they're as stringent, as Apple seems to be, right? And I had heard, Apple apps are going to be more expensive. They're going to charge you for some that you're like, man, that's free over here or whatever. But I was like, I'm not going to pay for anything anyway. So like, if it's an app I got to pay for, I'm like, I ain't paying for it. I'm gonna save my $3 or $2 or whatever it is. You know what I mean? I'm cheap like that, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, no, I that is interesting. So like, you have less. What do you call it? Like less barriers, to get onto the Google Play Store, and the user base is larger. You know what I mean? It's more international. So if you are out there trying to do something to where you're doing some ransomware, some malware, or something, you're trying to make some money, like hit it where it's biggest, right? Like where's your greatest opportunity? And apparently that's where it is, right? So yeah, that is an interesting.
Yeah. So Daniel, in Japan, do you think you see more iPhones or Androids? Just like, based on just walking around, seeing people on phones, or you don't have enough data yet?
I don't have enough data, but I know there's a healthy like an iPhone population out here. But you do see some of the Chinese and Korean, like Huawei, and Huawei. You see those a lot more here. You don't see those that much in the US at all, especially in the communities where we work and where we deal with. Like you can't even have those ones. But yeah, it's a good mix. It's funny because one of my coworkers who's Japanese, he actually has a Huey, or one of the newer Huey Huawei's, and his thing's actually kind of sick. It's like a really nice phone.
I'm sure it is.
And like the cat, but he doesn't use it at work. But he brought it to show us, and I was like, man, that is a nice phone, though. I was like, well, one day maybe when I'm retired, it'll be my my secondary phone. I wouldn't use it for anything important like banking. But just to watch stuff on it.
I mean, you figured like everything is produced in China, right? All like Foxconn, all everything. So they're like, all it takes is one guy to be like, steal the, copy some technology and call it a day, right?
Yeah.
I wonder if they're treating them like big time drug dealers in those plants where they're creating these phones. Like they got them in there naked, you know what I mean, so they can inspect them on the way out. Like, hey, open it up. Bend over, spread it open, like make sure you ain't got no chips.
Out of here. I wonder what measures are in place. Like if Apple or all those companies treat that stuff like CUI or whatever it is, because I'm sure there's agreements. Yeah, it's proprietary. It's gotta be.
It's different company
but you never know. Just like again, sheer probability somebody's gonna be out there. I mean the government's out there. So you never know. You never know. And one other thing, you mentioned Huawei. I just thought of this randomly, but when I was back during active duty, I was in Brazil, like on a Brazilian ship during an exercise, right? I was talking to some of the IT guys, I was talking to some of the officers. I noticed they had some really cool watches on, right? And I was like, hey, what brand is that watch? He's like, oh, it's a Huawei. We've like a bunch of people got it. He's like, much cheaper than Apple Watch. I mean, there it is, right? There it is. And I think in my experience, I'm sure you guys have been to the European region. Most people in Europe, they're all about Android, right? A lot of people are there's a lot less there's a lot less Apple users there. So I mean, that's just my anecdotal evidence, right? It's just my biases that I've built up, right?
Even with Apple, when they were first coming out, when they were building them, they were being built in China, but they weren't in the Chinese market for sale. That's something that's fairly recent, right? Like I want to say last 6-7 years. I could be wrong on the math on that, but it was not initially sold out there in China, right? So like the first iPhone came out in what 2008 or something like that. Was the first release of the first one?
Yeah.
And even though they were being manufactured over there, they were like, "Nah, you can't have it." You know what I mean? So like they weren't even in that market of 1.5 billion people at the time, you know. So yeah.
So
Yeah.
you can get Huawei phones on T-Mobile, I think. I'm looking, just like Googling out of where can I get a Huawei, like a Huawei phone, right? The One Plus, so Huawei here, like yeah, $250 for a Huawei phone, 6.5 inch.
Yeah,
it's a steal. Like come, yeah. There's just a lot of. It's just
there's a reason for that. If it's too true, if it's too good to be true.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Okay.
So.
All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode here. So, look, hit up all the social media platforms that go by the podcast name, right? Either the other side of the firewall, the other side of FW. Check out ramcyber.io, which will be the landing page where everything is going to eventually be tied in, right? That's not the case now, but that will eventually be the case. Everybody, go out there and find, Ryan on his social medias, right? He goes by Rai Security Guy, right? You can find him on all the social media platforms, right? He's out there in force, you know what I mean? And Daniel, where can they find you?
On LinkedIn under my name, Daniel Acevedo.
And you, Chris?
LinkedIn under my name, Chris Abacon. Last name is spelled A Bacon.
I love that A Bacon thing. I don't know why.
Hey, it works for me.
It sticks with you. It sticks with you, right? They're like, oh, A Bacon, that's easy to spell. All right, everybody out there, stay safe, stay secure.